So, for people who follow me on my TikTok, you know, this is a big moment for me. I got my label removed, and that label is my functional neurological disorder label. I gave a big speech to my doctor, and I'm about to read you my speech. This speech was very thought out, and I call it my Golden Girls speech. There is an episode, I think it's season 5 or 6, I think it's 5, season 5, episode 1 and 2. It's called Sick and Tired, and basically one of the Golden Girls goes through something, and she finally gets to walk up to her doctor and give a speech that she has been holding inside and gets to rip into the doctor. So I could have done a lawsuit on a doctor, but I chose to give grace. And now I might have to go back to this doctor actually for help for this stiff person issue. But I'm going to read you my speech I gave him. And at the end, well, you'll see. This is how I got my label removed. I'm going to read you verbatim what I read him, and then I will read you what he said. So, I'll read it calmly just like I did to him. So I wanted to give you an update, but first I wanted to tell you what happened, where I went. Also, I completely just disappeared on him. I just stopped replying because I'd message him and message him and message him and message him. And finally I just stopped replying. I just stopped caring. And then all of a sudden, yeah. So, here. So I wanted to give you an update, but at first I wanted to tell you where I went, how I got there, and the horrible, awful things that occurred, and how it could have been prevented, and how your labs are special. I want this conversation to be about awareness. I want this conversation to not be spiteful. This conversation could go two ways, and I'm choosing grace. Thanksgiving weekend, I went down to St. Mary's because I was in extreme pain. My seizures had gotten so violent, something happened to my neck. I literally couldn't pick up my head. I couldn't get to the bathroom anymore. What you don't see right now is me sitting here in a hard neck collar. This is why I wanted to do this video chat and not on the phone, but I'm grateful that you took the time to talk. It also took a lot of courage for me even to make this call. Every time we went to MAYO, we said it wasn't safe at home. I verbalized this to nurses. I verbalized this to you. I verbalized this to a lot of people. I even wrote this in my notes on the portal. My cries went unanswered. As a doctor, there is a legal duty to act upon those words, but that is in the past. We called down to St. Mary's and asked for help. They seemed to be flabbergasted by the functional neurological disorder label. They couldn't help, and there was a huge snowstorm, so we decided to go to the nearest hospital. This is where the journey begins, and where the true nightmare begins. It could have been prevented. I truly believe this. I think there is a purpose to all of this. On that ride to the hospital, that EMT person decided to beat me up. She didn't believe I was having seizures. I was stuck in what you call a freeze. I'll get to that later. She abused me. She thought I was faking it. I'll spare you the details. I got to the hospital and my seizures were out of control. Nobody was looking at the problem. Nobody was listening to why I was there, which was my neck. I was in the hospital for about 3 days until finally somebody heard me say, "What about my neck?" They ran a CT and it came back normal. Of course, normal. What they also did was take me off of a certain medication I took for pain and my ADHD medication. They also put me on a different medication for my pain. My seizures started to calm down, like they stopped. I went from having 800 plus seizures in 3 months to none. At this point, I am on a bedpan and my mom says I'm not coming home with her, so I end up in a nursing home. This nursing home is not your grandmother's nursing home. This nursing home has never heard of functional neurological disorder. I have to teach the staff, my physical therapist, my occupational therapist, my speech therapist, all about this disorder. I basically make up my routine. I end up getting neglected by staff, and shortly after, I end up in the hospital with a kidney infection, a bladder infection with E. coli. Then I get a phone call from you, my doctor. I get this random phone call from you while I'm sitting in the hospital. It seemed a little weird and out of place. Your tone seemed different. You were wondering where I was. My cries stopped. So you called me. You offered me the best program. At one point, it was an odd phone call. Now here's where things go cockeyed. I found out at the nursing home I was at why I got into it so easily on Thanksgiving weekend. They take mentally ill patients. They take homeless people. They take drug addicts. The light fixtures were falling off the wall. My toilet didn't flush. My bed cord was chewed on. I was left in my own feces and urine so long that I ended up in the hospital. My own nurse told me to stop faking for my meds. There were people taking off their diapers in the hallway. So now I need to leave the hospital. I don't want to go back to the other nursing home. And I found out I got denied from 82 different rehabs and nursing homes because of the label functional neurological disorder. It's like a scarlet letter. A representative from the past nursing home came and said, you can either come back to the one you left or we can send you to the sister nursing home. I chose the lesser of two evils. My first day at the next nursing home, they poured my urine down the sink I'm supposed to be drinking from and brushing my teeth in. I'll spare you the details on that one. It's a nicer looking nursing home, but the same story. I spent 72 days last winter in a nursing home. I left my house on Thanksgiving and I didn't get home until February 5th. I came home, I got a PCA, a PT, OT, speech, you name it. A month later, COVID happened and I released them back to their homes. Still, something wasn't right. I knew I needed to keep fighting. With COVID, things got complicated. Somebody sent me a link a while back to a clinic. It was called Complex Cares. It had a zebra on it. Have you heard the phrase, when you hear hoof prints, think horses, not zebra? I'm pretty sure you have, because that's what they teach you in med school. Well, that phrase has become my life, my motto. Let me explain. On June 14th, I sat in a 6-hour meeting with my doctor. That doctor, before our meeting, went through all of my history. I mean all of it, from every doctor, every hospital, my whole life. This doctor, she's highly sought after in Minnesota. She diagnoses only zebras. Zebras are the mascot for EDS because of that phrase above. Zebras exist, but in med school, they teach you that phrase, that horrible phrase. They should teach you that complex people do exist. Rare breeds do exist. Now let me paint you a picture of what actually happened so next time you cannot make this mistake. I had the perfect storm happen, and it did not just start on September 13th. I was holding a lot of pain in for years, and here's how it happened. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. If you cannot connect the issue, think connective tissue. I see a common problem. If you don't know what's going on, you automatically think it is psychological. Well, for me, it's genetic. I can sublux my shoulders. I can sublux my hip out. I can slide my kneecaps off. I have other weird things. They call these party tricks in the disabled communities. These things I thought were normal, but the pains I was having, they went unvalidated. That was my internal ableism. I was told I was getting old. I told it was normal. I've been told it's in my head. I've been told it's psychological. I've been told I've been faking it. I've been told the worst of the worst things straight to my face from the doctors. But now I know none of those things are true. Did you know EDS people are some of the most resilient patients? I learned this from the book that my doctor is actually in. It's called Disjointed. I highly recommend it to you. I'll remind you about this book at the end. It talks about these disorders and FND. It talks about how FND is misdiagnosing people with EDS. It talks about how FND label is harming in charts. I'm starting to see this is true. So the seizures you saw. Mast cell activation syndrome can present with seizures. My seizures were getting worse and worse because I was going up and up on my pain medication. That medication has a seizure warning. We tried to reintroduce that and my ADHD medication and the pain medication. Both popped off with seizures to prove it. We asked you if that med could be causing a problem, and that went ignored. I also have food allergies and a lot of other issues that I have a lot of meds trying to control this right now. This is what was causing a lot of issues back then. It can cause light sensitivities, which was why I'm wearing glasses. I am down to a limited amount of food, but since figuring all this out, a lot of my triggers and symptoms are down. Do you remember when I came into your office and I was shaking all about, and then it calmed down? That was sensory overload due to light sensitivity and sensory issues. When I had to go through all the spaces to finally get to your office, everything calmed down. Now that I understand my body, I can verbalize that to you. Also, the frustrating part about all of this is, guess where they did my labs? Mayo Clinic in Rochester. That's where they sent my labs for all of this testing. You did the bare minimum testing. I remember saying verbatim, look for a zebra, look outside the box. I can look in my chart. My doctor specifically sent my specific labs to your specific place because there's only 2 labs in the state that can do them, and you're one of them. Thanksgiving weekend is when my cranial cervical instability happened. Problem is you can only see them on an upright MRI. So the MRI that we got done, you wouldn't see it. The CT they ran on Thanksgiving, they're not going to see it. All the weird neurological issues that were happening in the nursing home was not helping the psychological stigma. Now for the big one. I'm having these huge attacks happening right now. I'm having full body spasm attacks. It's like you click pause on me. My full body goes like a stiff board. You can literally not move a single joint in my body. I cannot stand up. I cannot walk anymore. I get triggered if I move too much. I did get a little better after the nursing home, but all of a sudden I've taken a sharp turn. I've been denied and dismissed treatment. I found a great neurologist at Minnesota Neurology Clinic. I'm going there for stiff person syndrome. He believes I have it, but it often gets misdiagnosed as FND before it gets diagnosed as stiff person syndrome. I can see why it happens. There's a lot of similarities. So I don't know if you're a faith man, but I truly believe that we've been brought together for a reason. If I run in a dead end with Minneapolis Neurology Clinic and they're over their head, can I depend on you? I read a story about you. The man who had 60 seizures, you created a lab test just for him. If you can do that, can you do this one favor for me? Can I depend on you? I also need to discuss a couple labels in my chart that need to be removed. Then there was complete silence. Maybe a good minute or two. Then immediately he went into talking about stiff person. Then the thing is I recently found out why he didn't understand FND when I was first there. He's a neuroimmunologist. He specializes in disorders like stiff person. He specializes in neuromuscular disorders like ALS and MS. That's why I truly believe I was meant to have that conversation. Then I asked him about my label of FND. I told him I truly don't think this belongs to me. I said, I painted the picture. What do you think? He removed the label. I don't think some of you understand how important that was for me getting that label removed, but that opens many doors for me. It will make me able to access treatments that I wasn't able to before because of stigma. Then I said, will you help me? And then he got a little defensive and he said, I tried to help you. I got a little angry, and I said, no, sir, you only tried to help me when my cries went silent, and if that is your reply, sir, you did not hear my speech. Because honestly, you guys, doctor's guilt should not trigger your care. Then the words came out of his mouth that I thought I would never hear. This was truly hard to hear, he said, but he was grateful for the feedback. This was really humbling, he said, and he told me I was brave. Those words will forever ring in my ears. I have waited so long to hear those words, and then it continued. He said, if your doctor wants to message me, whatever I can do to help, whatever I can do to make this better, please let me know if he has questions on stiff person or just wants to message. This is for you guys. So, I just want you to know, if you are listening or reading this, and you've ever been in this situation, know that I validate your feelings. Know that the feelings of this is super empowering. I will tell you right now, I was shaking the whole time. Don't stop fighting for what you believe in. I walked right up to my greatest fear the other day, and I gave it a talking to, and I walked away with a smile. I cried a bit too, though. I can tell you that the trauma of everything will always stay with me, but what I did yesterday built awareness for a lot of people. I don't know if I could have done this a year ago. Out of all of this craziness, I have learned patience. Out of all of this craziness, I have learned grace. Out of all of this, I have learned how to advocate for a lot of people. Out of all of this, I have learned I have a voice and I know how to use it. I am disabled. Hear me roar. Hear me roar. I validate your feelings. I hear you and I see you. If you've ever been in a situation like that, know you can do that speech too. If you want to copy and paste whatever I just said, go for it. If you want that script, I will send it to you. Know that you can do that. Man, was I scared. When I got done, I put my head down on the table and I just cried afterwards. I said thank you to him. I said thank you. Because also him saying that he was humbled by that and grateful for that feedback was also hard for him too. But I got my label removed. He didn't want to remove it fully, so he downgraded it to non-epileptic seizures, because I do have non-epileptic seizures when I have reactions to meds and foods. So yeah. That's the doctor's speech I gave, and I hope it empowers you. Anytime you need to hear it, come here and click. Peace, love, and Cookie Monster, you guys. Stay safe out there. Love you.